Hello, everybody. Captain Sidaris here. It's again time to talk about the Star Trek anniversary. Yeah, and for that reason, I'm invited Picard456, the developer of the Star Trek Armada mods Dominion Wars. Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm good. How about you? Thanks for having me.
Not bad at all. We have already a little bit the night oil here. Yeah, before we go into the main topic tonight, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What movies do you watch? What games do you enjoy?
Well, first off, in terms of job, I can't disclose too much because of a non-disclosure agreement, but I work in the area of search engine optimization. So it's somewhat technical job, but unrelated to modding. And as far as games, people might be surprised, but being that I'm a modder, that I actually don't play many games, except for maybe Armada occasionally. And as far as movies, I'm really big into sci-fi and action movies. Obviously, I'm into Star Trek a lot. It's my favorite genre.
And how did you get into the Star Trek franchise?
I got in because of one of my brothers. He would always have Star Trek: The Next Generation on, and so I didn't know much about the show, but I was so fascinated by it. I mean, it looked kind of goofy, especially in the first couple of seasons, but I don't know, it just like sucked me in. That a lot of people went into Star Wars because it's very action packed, and Star Trek, it really resonated with me. And even though there wasn't like a lot of action, very character driven show, I still always loved like tuning in, watching the show with my brother, and seeing what would happen. So,
Of course, since we have the Star Trek anniversary, I have to ask, what is your favorite show?
it's got to be DS9, Deep Space Nine. That was my favorite show. I remember tuning in every Saturday, I think it was, like in the afternoon when it's in syndication here. And I just was blown away because I like the Next Generation sucked me into Star Trek, and then watching DS9, it was still the same kind of show where it's very philosophical and character driven, but then they added a lot of action at the same time. So they had this nice little balance, and it was always so exciting to see. They had trailers for the following week, so I always sucked me in wanting to see the next episode, the next episode. And that's what inspired me with the mod too. So
It's definitely a good choice. It's also my favorite show. Even though I watched a little bit more Voyager as a growing up adolescence, but yeah, DS9 is also close to my heart. And yeah, how did you get into modding?
that's a good question. A friend actually introduced me to Star Trek Armada, which was in 2000. I must have been in high school. And I didn't know much about many computer games. And I remember I was a fan of Star Trek, showed me this game, and it kind of sucked me in. And then as years went on, I remember searching on the internet about the game. And then I found out there was all these modding communities people were posting models of the game. And so eventually I learned how to mod Star Trek Armada 1. I never released any Star Trek Armada 1 mod on the internet. It was just like I modded for me and my friends to play, because once a week we might have like a LAN party and play that game together. And that's how I got into it. And then as the years went on, I kind of forgot about it. And then Armada didn't work on computers. I think it was like post 2010 or something. Eventually they weren't incompatible with the computers. And then one day a friend randomly asked like, oh, we should play Armada on the computer. And then I said, well, it doesn't work anymore. So I did some research on the internet, and I found out about this mod called Fleet Operations. And then I downloaded that, and then that inspired me to want to maybe mod again, because I liked the game that they made. It was a very stable, it's basically like a new game, it seems like. It was a mod of Armada 2. And so after playing that, I started getting the itch to want to mod it. And I had no intention of releasing it on the internet. It was just going to be for me and my friends. But then after going through the game and seeing how it works, I started getting the idea of adding more factions, and then maybe I will release it on the internet and see how people react to it. So that's how I got started into modding, basically.
I wanted to ask you, but I forgot. What Star Trek games did you play? And did you play them from the release or did you buy them later?
When I was younger, I think that was like the golden age of Star Trek gaming was when I think it was like in junior high and high school. I played Star Trek Fleet Command 3, I think it was called. Both the Elite Force games, I think they're first-person shooters. But of course, Star Trek Armada 1 and 2, I played those. Then there was like this game, I don't know if you heard of it, it's called Star Trek Deep Space Nine Dominion Wars. That wasn't so great, but I did play it. So those are I pretty much the only game I did not play was Bridge Commander growing up. So, I mean, maybe in the future I'll get that, because I see that it's been released on a different platform now that's compatible with computers nowadays.
Yeah, the re-release of the classic games on GOG is really good. But sadly, I have to say there is a problem here. The current release of Armada 2 on GOG isn't really working with the Fleet Ops mod, in the sense of that the multiplayer isn't working. We had an event for this Star Trek September I'm hosting, and yeah, we couldn't get a connection, sadly.
I know there's ways to get around it, but I still have the old disc that I play off of, so.
I mentioned it in the last interview with Jan B last week. The GOG version is a little bit better in the Armada games. For example, in Armada 1, you have a much better game performance compared to the community wrapper. And in Armada 2, you have the benefit that the multiplayer is finally working. I couldn't get the disc version to run in multiplayer for years.
Oh, wow. Couldn't imagine why that is. Huh.
Well, it's just a wrapper. They used a different wrapper, different code, so I guess it's that.
Could be that, yeah.
But yeah, I would say let's go into your mods. Outside of the Star Trek Armada community, I guess not many fans know about Dominion Wars. Can you give us a short summary?
It is a mod of a mod. It is based around the Dominion Wars, which is in the Deep Space Nine series. That was heavily influenced from that show. I basically wanted to make a game that was faster. I wanted to make a quicker game. I did not want to play a game that lasts 3-4 hours. I wanted to have a game where you build a fleet and you fight. So that was like my main goal when I started making the mod. Yeah. It's a mod of a mod, and I added I think there's 5 factions or 4 factions in the original Fleet Ops. And I had decided to add an additional 4. The Breen, the Cardassian, and then I did like these alliance factions, which consist of just like on the show, the combined forces of like the Federation Alliance was the Klingons, Romulans, and the Federation, and then the Dominion Alliance, which is the Breen, Dominion, and the Cardassians together. So I gave that option too in the game. So I wanted to give a lot of options in the game. There's a lot of content that people can go through. So
yeah, I saw that also, that you have basically 2 different versions. One which also includes the Borg. It's really nicely done.
Yeah, there's a little cutoff with the programming that if you wanted to do multiplayer with other players, that you couldn't play with the Borg. So I switched around the order of the playlist so that gave the option too that you could play as the Borg in multiplayer.
And what was the inspiration behind the project? How did this whole start?
It started with the friend asking if I can mod it. There was, when I started this project, it was just going to be an individual thing. I was not planning to release it on the internet. I remember going through, there was a website called MFSC Star Trek, which is like a private community, but you can still browse on there, but you can't participate unless you have like 2 years of interacting with the forums there. But I remember seeing there was a modeler there who had all these really good looking models that I thought, man, I want to put that in my game. So I posted somewhere in the Fleet Ops forum that like, can someone get me this guy's contact information? I'd like to get his models. And because of him, that's why the Dominion War game exists because he's the one that made the Breen models. I mean, no other person's made an entire race of models just for the Breen for Star Trek Armada. So that's basically what inspired. And after that, I think people would maybe like to play this, you know, because I remember seeing in the forums people said that they wish that Fleet Ops had the Cardassians. So I thought I'll add the Cardassians and I'll add the Breen and make it more like Deep Space Nine. So.
And how many years is this ago?
This must have been in 2017. Well, that was about 6 years ago. It took me a couple months, and then I posted it, and then people started making suggestions about how I could improve the mod, and then I started modding it again in the spring of 2018.
You also mentioned that you played the original Dominion Wars. Was there some inspiration also from that game?
There was. I actually I did not make any models, but other people have made models they took from that game that I put in my mod. So that's like sort of quasi-canon for Star Trek. I'm trying to remember, like for the Federation, they have the Achilles class. That was strictly in Dominion Wars game, and I put that in there. I think the Hutat for the Cardassians. I think there's at least, except for the Breen, each in the Borg, at least one has one ship that was unique to the Dominion Wars game that I put in my mod.
And I also saw, of course, the Odyssey class. So you have also inspiration from other games?
Oh, yes. I was inspired from the last season of Picard. I guess that was from Star Trek Online. But I remember seeing that in, I think it was the final episodes of Picard. So, and then that was another model from the same person who had made all the Breen models. And so I decided that I was going to make that in a warp-in hero, because I wasn't really part of Deep Space Nine, but I said it was like an experimental ship that you can warp in. But I wanted to add that into, because I thought it was a neat little ship, and it's just something to do something new for the game.
Yeah, and I really love that you have so many different ships you can warp in, and can even build some of the classic ships like the NX or TOS Enterprise. It's nice.
Oh yeah. That was like a last minute thing I throw in there just for fun. Yeah.
But it's totally fitting for a grand war like the Dominion War, where you have basically to master every available ship.
That's true. I mean, that's like in the series, they basically, from what I read, like for Deep Space Nine, for the Dominion War, the Federation had to take ships that were mothballed and basically refit them just to fight. So it kind of fits into that canon of Star Trek, I think.
I didn't test the weapons extensively, but are the old ships really capable of doing some damage, or are they just cannon fodder?
They're more cannon fodder. They're more eye candy, just to look at, basically. I mean, there's some good models, and I mean, they could do some damage, but they're not really integral to winning the game.
That's true, because they die like flies, but I wondered if they also had a good damage output, or at least some.
No. Yeah, they weren't meant to give you a huge advantage or anything like that. It was just for purely nostalgia reasons. So.
Oh, now I have a challenge. I want to beat the game with only an X class.
That would be something.
And on the project, did you get some help from different modders who also work in a team sense with you, or is it more or less a project alone for you?
It was pretty much a lone project, but I mean, I'm not going to say I wasn't helped. I mean, I reached out to a lot of people for help. You mentioned Jan B, and helped me a lot with the project too, with the recent stuff. For instance, like the whole warp-in heroes thing and the avatars, changing them to reflect more of the characters from the show. That was from someone else too. That worked a little bit on the project with me, and then I went solo. But I would say majority of the thing I did by myself in terms of compiling the mod, but I got a lot of help from outside people that I requested, and they were very gracious to help me.
And yeah, since you mentioned help from the outside, I guess you also experienced some problems. Can you maybe share some bigger ones you had?
Bugs, game crashes. I actually didn't see that many in the earlier versions I did of the game because I was very meticulous in terms of testing. Like I would the slightest thing that I changed on a ship or in a file, I would immediately test to see if it worked, you know. But the the current release that I have, I was experiencing crashes during instant action. For some reason, it would crash every 2 games. And so what I finally figured out was that I put too much stuff in the AI build list. So I had to take some things out to make sure the game wouldn't crash, and I had to test that for days. So that was a big headache because I would feel really bad like putting out a game out there that doesn't crash and no one's gonna want to play my game. So that was like the big issue I had, and it nearly took me a week to get it figured out. And it was really frustrating. So, but that was like the only really big obstacle that I remember facing while modding the game.
And were there maybe some features you wanted to include, but yeah, the engine couldn't handle, or it was just too complicated?
I don't think I have any features that couldn't be handled by the game engine, but there was something I wanted to do and then I scrapped at the end. I wanted to change the user interface, like the GUI, I think they'd call it. I wanted to change the original Fleet Ops user interface for each race to make them a little more brighter and more unique to the game. But then I tried doing that myself and I'm not very artistic. So I tried messing around in the GIMP program to try to do that and it didn't end up looking very good. So that was like the one thing on my list of things that I wanted to do that I ended up not just scrapping because it was just giving me a big headache. But other than that, they pretty much everything I wanted to do, I pretty much accomplished in my mod, yeah.
And also on the factions, are you happy basically with them, with the content you already have?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. That's why I actually came back for the 3.0 version because I wasn't sure if people were still playing my mod, but I was looking on YouTube and I was seeing there's some people posting videos of them playing my game, particularly this one guy named, I think his name's Warble. And so after watching it, I started thinking about the Cardassians, like how they could be fleshed out better, added more special weapons, and maybe they should be. I actually thought they were a little too powerful for the thing. So I started that's what gave me the itch to come back again because I wanted to change the Breen and the Cardassians so that were more unique compared to the other factions. So I made the Cardassians more reliant on defense and their offensive capabilities were kind of scaled back a little bit. I thought they were too powerful before after watching people play my game. And then I kind of made the Breen more like the show too, where they were kind of faster, but their ships were kind of lacked defensive value. So they would blow up faster compared to other races.
Yeah, I can imagine that balancing the game, because it's so fast compared to the original Fleet Ops, can be a headache.
Yeah. I actually was thinking about that. Sometimes throughout the years, I would think about maybe I would like to come back and kind of fix that, and then I just never did it. And then I was kind of inspired that people were still playing the game, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll come back one more time and actually fix that and feel more happy with what I did with the mod. So it feels more like Star Trek, true to the series, I guess.
I think the entire mod is true to the series, especially since you have so many different stations in it.
Oh, yeah.
The Midas Array, DS9, Earth Space Dock. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And finally, the stations really look like we are used to from the shows, firing multiple torpedoes in different directions. It looks so nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wanted to make them not just look good, but capable of sort of taking a small fleet on, basically. So, yeah, had to give it that effect where there are torpedoes flying in all directions.
Yeah, it's very unique. Played so many different Star Trek mods and never saw that, especially for a DS9 model.
Yeah.
And talking about things you can be proud of, what are you personally most proud of, feature-wise or ship-wise?
This is a small thing, and maybe other people don't care about it. I don't know if You remember this from Deep Space Nine? There was that episode where the Federation Alliance decided that they're going to go on the attack, and they're going to face the Cardassians, and the Cardassians only had turrets. And they had these turrets that rotated, and they were only powered by these like power plants that were nearby. So basically, I actually Jan B helped me with this, with these turrets. They look more like from the show, and they actually rotate in the game too, just like the show. And they're actually powered by these power plants that if you destroy them, then the turrets become useless in the game. So it's pretty much, it's very like the show from that very episode with the spinning turrets. And I was actually very proud of that part. But I don't know if people actually care about that in the game, but I was really proud of that in the game.
Well, I can tell you, I really like it. And I didn't notice it. I guess the match yesterday would have been much easier if I would killed the power stations.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're very strong, but they have an Achilles heel to them, definitely. So.
Oh, I love features like this. It's amazing. So you're not alone there.
It's the little things I like, basically. So, yeah.
And chip-wise, what would you say are your babies, which you're really proud of?
In the new version, I got this new Romulan model. I think I called it the Praetor class or something. It's really big, and it was from an unreleased mod years ago, Futures Tense or something. I got from somebody, and it was like an unfinished model. But I thought it looked so cool, and I got I don't know if you're familiar with the person, Drayson is also in the modding community, and I got this person to basically retexture the mod and finish the model, and then Jan B helped with the hardpoints put on it. And so that was like a model I had been sitting on a flash drive for years, and I always wanted to put that in the game, and I finally got that finished. So I was really happy about that. And then there's actually a station that I don't know if anyone actually cares about, but it's like the Dominion Advanced Cloning Station. I always thought that looked very Dominion-y, I guess. It looked very like to the show. Even though we never see any Dominion stations in the show, I was always like the look of that one, so I put it in the game.
Yeah, I also like it when modders expand on the factions, the races we know from the shows.
Exactly. I mean, there's some factions on the show, we only see 2 ships, so we have to people had to be creative and make other types of models that fit various like ship classes, like cruisers and destroyers, and then battleships. So yeah.
Since we just got a new version, I guess it's hard to tell us something about the future, but is there a future for the mod?
That's a good question. I currently do not have any plans to work on it anytime soon. I might consider in the future if I can get my hands on some other. There was only a couple models that I never got to put in the game that don't even exist, but I wanted from the series. Like, I wanted a better looking Federation station. I wanted the orbital. I think from the motion picture, the orbital. I think it's called the orbital. It looks like the regular station flipped upside down. I wanted that in the game, but there's no model for Armada. Put that in the game, and then I wanted to do the user interface, and that was like the only things I really, if I had a chance to do, I wanted to just finish the mod that way. But the time being, I don't have any plans to work on it unless I stumble on something in the future that I would like to put in the game.
So we will see, but you're already on a good way there. The product already is so amazing.
Thank you.
What I especially liked is that you have again the trading station. I mentioned that in the talk to Jan B. I like the trading station.
Oh yeah.
So often we have this problem of, I have too much of that resource and I want the other ones.
Yeah. And what if you lose your resource, like your ability to mine, and you have all this dilithium and you can't convert it into titanium? So I figured that would be just a nice feature just in case. So
yeah. And I think in nearly every RTS game, I want a kind of trading aspect where you send traders out to the allies and get some stuff back. I like that. Makes it more alive.
Someone actually suggested, I don't know where, they asked if you can if you could trade with the station to get like ships or something. And I didn't think about it until after releasing the game. So maybe in the future I could do that too, but I don't know.
Yeah, the trading system was, of course, never really well implemented in Star Trek Armada.
Yeah.
Especially one thing I also mentioned to Jan was, what was the stupid decision to have only 100 pieces per trade? It's stupid, sadly.
Yeah, did a lot of clicking.
Yeah, especially if you play ever Klingon Academy 2, you need sometimes 2,000 or 3,000 for a research, for a ship, and this is a lot of clicking.
Yeah, that's true.
We have a question from the chat here.
Oh, really?
What exactly did you change to make the game progression faster so it's not a multi-hour long game?
Well, there's two things actually. I decreased the time it took to build the ships, and then also the costs were changed. I remember in the original Fleet Ops, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I just remember it was a lot. You needed a lot of resources just to build like one sovereign class or something, and then they took like a minute and a half to build. So basically, it just decreased the value of those for all the ships across. And I think that's kind of affected the AI too, that they would build ships faster since there's already a handicap for them. And if the build time is already a little bit smaller for them, that they're going to build ships even faster too. So that's basically what I did to speed up the game.
Speaking about that, especially resources, I liked that you included a mining station for the supply.
Oh, yeah.
It's very annoying in original Fleet Ops how often you have to buy this bonus pack basically from the station.
Oh, and it's asking for supplies. Yeah, you'd have a million prompts on the screen asking it, saying that you can't afford a ship or something.
And here you don't have to think about it when you have the station.
Yeah, I got around that but you just mine it basically. Yeah, so.
And very good here again that you have a different mining station, a different ship to do it.
Yeah, I think it was only the Breen that they didn't have a separate one because there wasn't so many models for them out there. But yeah, luckily there was enough materials that I can find on the internet to have two different models for you can differentiate what the station's mining for. So I was lucky in that.
That's the good thing in the Star Trek and Star Wars franchise. You have so much reference material out there. You can build such great games. And it's a shame that the real developer studios don't do anything with it. They create a crazy new race nobody likes.
Oh, yeah. Everyone wants to play the ships and the races that came from the show. They don't want some made up race they never heard of before. It's not, you can't relate to that, and it's not, no one wants that basically. So
don't get me wrong here. I like new stuff, especially if you have a faction like the Breen, which don't have many ships on the show. Of course, make new stuff here. That's fine. But I still want the Breen feeling.
Oh, yeah. That was my favorite. That was probably my favorite race from the series. We don't know much about them, and they had that funny sound when they talked to her, but I was so excited that I found models on the internet to put that in my game.
Yeah, that's the sad state of Star Trek in today's age. Especially the old fans want to know more detail about the shows we love, and not again time period in Kirk's era or between Enterprise and Kirk. It was
yeah, I did not care for that either. I mean, Enterprise was okay, and I didn't really care for the J.J. Abrams films and then going backwards. I mean, I think people want to know what happened after DS9, what happened after Nemesis, whatever. There's a huge gap of shows between then and now, and then they never explored like what happened in the post-war, basically, in Star Trek.
Yeah, definitely. There is so much unused material. Don't want to go that much into that direction, but did you ever play Star Trek Online?
I did briefly, and then I never got into it too deeply. I'm not like a big gamer myself, so I don't have a lot of free time to play that. But sometime in the future, I do want to get back into that. A friend had texted me and said like, like in the group chats, like we should play Star Trek Online sometime. So someday in the future, I think maybe I'll get into that more.
The good thing, or let's start with the bad thing in Star Trek Online. It's not the best game. The ground combat is clunky a little bit. The space combat is limited to an MMO, but still fun. But what is really, really great is the story content. So you can see this big single player game. And yeah, they basically did that what every fan wants. Use those small episodes where we have only one instant and we never see them again or hear about that feature again, and they take it and make an episode out of it. For example, they used the dead Harry Kim from Voyager. Remember in the second season, Harry Kim dies and he is in space basically, and they use him again in the story, and our Kim from the show and the frozen Kim basically meet.
Really?
And they visit again the Delta Quadrant, have the actors from Voyager, Neelix, 7 of 9, Tuvok, Tom Paris, Harry Kim. So many voice actors are in it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot of the actors from the show lent their voices to that game or something.
Yeah, there's so much story. So I really can recommend it.
I will get into that someday for sure. I mean, the time that I played it, I thought it was pretty cool that you don't necessarily have to play like the story, and you can fly around from different sectors, I guess, and it makes it feel like you're really in the Star Trek universe, and then visit a starbase or something and walk around. But
going maybe a little bit more in the direction of Star Trek games in general, what would you like in the future of a new official Star Trek game?
It would be pretty cool if they did like another like Star Trek Armada game that was more modern, because the old engines from the Star Trek Armada games are kind of limited in what they can do. I mean, they're prone to crashes if you put so much on the screen. It'd be cool if they did like a huge RTS game that, I mean, I know there's that mod for, I guess it's Solar Lens of the Empire or something like that. They call it Star Trek Armada 3, and they made it a big RTS game. But if they were gonna make like an official game, I'd like to see them do like another Armada game that's similar, but bigger and true to the show too. Like keep it to the storylines that we are used to. I mean, like doing like a Dominion war would make a lot of sense, because that's the first time we've seen in the series an actual war. And so basically that's what I would say, just like another Armada game that's bigger basically, and you can utilize the technology that we have nowadays and make people can have gigantic battles basically together online.
Yeah, and use sadly modern engines. Modern engines have different problems, of course, but one thing in Armada games which always irks me is the fact that after a certain time, after a certain unit limit, basically the game gets not unstable and you have out of sync problems. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it chugged along. You can't use wormholes on a map or something apparently. The game goes out of sync. I mean, I remember I remember having a game with a group of friends that we were playing in separate rooms, and the game goes out of sync, and then all of a sudden we're playing two different games at the same time, and the other people are claiming they're winning, and we thought we're winning because we're facing actually the computer. So
yeah, that was really the classic times. It was amazing.
We would play for like an hour and then have to restart because the game went out of sync. So that wasn't that fun, but.
And it's sadly so random, especially in Armada 1. It can happen after 2 seconds. It can happen after 2 hours.
Yeah. I remember playing games where we'd start the game and all of a sudden it'd say out of sync and everyone go like, no, like what a waste of time, setting up for that and not working.
But sadly, I don't get paid by GOG, but the Armada re-release is really more stable also on the multiplayer side.
Yes, that's what I've been hearing from other people. That's really cool though, to hear that they re-released it and everything, because I thought the game would just like die. But apparently there's a lot of fans in the world that still remember Armada and like playing that, so that's pretty cool.
my co-host and I wondered this for so many years. Why do they leave basically money on the table? Why is no company using those gems basically?
Yeah, and like re-releasing them.
I just hope we can at some point in the future fix this problem with the multiplayer in Fleet Ops.
Yeah, I did not know that there was a problem with the GOG multiplayer. So
me neither. For the last 20 years, I used the CD version for especially Fleet Ops.
yeah,
And now we thought, hey, let's try the GOG version for Fleet Ops, and yeah, it didn't work.
that's a shame.
Yeah, and I guess many old school players also don't use it because they have the CD version.
Yeah, I luckily still have like the original disc for it, and they're still working just fine. So, but maybe, I mean, hopefully someday maybe someone will release a patch that fixes that or something. So there's always someone working on something to fix. I mean, there was like, I remember years ago, someone was working like randomly on a HD version of Armada and widescreen version or something. So
yeah, we finally have for Armada 1 and 2 widescreen support. Yeah, it only took 22 years for Armada 2.
I'm still amazed that there's like a community of people that play this game. So,
well, basically speaks volumes for the developers and the quality they sent us.
Yeah.
Looking back at your history with Armada and modding, what would you say have you learned during those many years? Maybe something you could take into your job world, in your job experience?
I definitely say organization. One of the things I did when I was working on it to avoid any like mistakes or errors in the game, I always made lists before starting. So I would make, I mean, I think it's good to do anything in life. If you want to accomplish something, you need to make a list and then go down the list and mark it off as you go along. So kind of learn that to be organized. Like you can't just go into doing something willy-nilly and be disorganized and think it's going to work out. So it kind of reinforced that idea about being organized and perseverance, because there was times where the game wouldn't work and then I thought about giving up and not even working on it anymore. And so that was another thing, just not give up on things you're working on. You'll eventually figure it out. So
oh, that brings me to another question here. Since you started modding Armada so late and so many websites died already, was it easy for you to find information to mod the game?
Not really. When I started, it was still kind of, I mean, it was in decline, because I remember there was a website called Star Trek Armada Files or something like that, and people posted all the time in the early 2000s. But when I started modding the Fleet Ops game in 2017, it was pretty active on the Fleet Ops website. So I would go on there and post something asking for help, and people would respond within a day. So at that time, but from what I've seen now, after coming back, I was looking at, through forums and stuff, it's kind of dying out a little bit in terms of people being active in modding. So for sure.
Yeah, sadly the internet world changed to Discord, and this is always a gated community, so new modders will have a hell of a time.
Yeah, and that's what I switched over recently for this newest version. I went to the Fleet Ops Discord. Those guys were awesome in helping me. I mean, I was kind of annoying asking questions every day, but those guys were so willing to help me and help me accomplish the newest goals I did in the newest release. So I was really thankful for that resource.
Okay, then I have one question left from the chat. Do you think the future shown in Star Trek is one to aspire to? Especially the current level of technology we have, the self-learning systems and our human condition.
Is it something to inspire to? Definitely. I mean, one thing about the show is it's like there's a lot of technology in there, but I mean, I think the emphasis on the show is like about being human and improving yourself. And I definitely think that it would be nice that like in the future we evolve into that technology makes our lives more comfortable and we can focus more on leisure activities and hobbies and spend time more with our families and not working down to the bone, and definitely, like, I mean, it's sort of like when I watch the show, it's definitely sort of like an escapism that like kind of wish that the world was like Star Trek, that we had these technologies and in the show in Earth, that people are not suffering anymore and everyone has equal rights and everyone is happy and thriving basically in the future. So, and that's something I think that would be really cool in the future if we can somewhat get to that level, but we shall see.
And do you think we go more into the direction of an AI we see in Star Trek, which is helpful, or do we have in the future the friendly neighborhood Terminator?
I'm an optimist, so I would say I'm not worried about a Terminator yet, unless I wake up tomorrow and hear that they're making robot armies or something. But I would like to think that AI is going to help us in the future, maybe solve various issues or something. So I'm hopeful of that.
I just wonder, do you also play around with AI, maybe for the mod?
Not really, because like the AI is not very complicated as it seems. I mean, I just messed around with what they call build lists, like the computer goes down the list and the list instructs the AI like what to build and how many of them. So that was like my only, I guess, foray into AI. So even though it's very basic.
I also wanted to go into the direction of the in-game AI, but I meant more in the range of ChatGPT, upscaling, stuff like that.
I have not actually. I know people that have. I know some people that are in school that have used that to cheat or whatever on their tests, but I have not really gotten into the ChatGPT or anything like that. I haven't really had a need to use anything resource like that.
I saw many modders out there, especially in older games, that they use upscaling AIs for textures and pictures, icons, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd never even researched it. I never like what did they use that for exactly? Like for just the art of their games or the models?
For everything you can imagine, basically, they have the textures of the asteroids and they will make it bigger and nicer and clearer.
Oh wow, yeah, I have not gotten into that. Huh? That's very interesting, though.
On my personal experience, I use it for video production or picture production, more or less. Especially, I used your screenshots from mod database, and I got it into the AI and I produced a nearly 4K picture.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Which I don't use because the thumbnail is 720p, but it's still nicer, even if I shrink it down again.
It's very cool.
Okay, I would say we close it off slowly. So basically, this is the part of the video where I open the mic to you. Is there anything you would like to touch? Anything we missed?
Thank you for giving us opportunity. I would never even consider doing an interview in the past, and I don't know. I just like to thank people that play my mod and give me feedback. It's kind of cool to see that people out there still play the game, and I hope people enjoy the newest version that I created. I don't play games that much, but I kind of made it more or less for people to play, and I hope they like it. So
I guess I can say that for the community. We really enjoy it, and I will play it on LAN parties. I really had a nice match yesterday, and I have to play every faction now, especially the combined ones where you have the Federation, Klingon, Romulans.
That's a lot of stuff to work at. That's very cool. Post it on the internet if you like. I like watching people play more than me playing myself, so that's what I get a kick out of.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a spotlight, and I host every September, the Star Trek September, where I play different games, different mods. So in the future, I will include yours.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for all the work you have done and joining me here. It was really nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you too.
But yeah, like I said, we end it here. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the game, and of course, play the game. Until next time, bye bye.